Hey guys, and welcome to a scrap so good it crashed my PC 3 times whilst trying to load into it. I'm a Rubber Duck War, but today we're going to be looking at the mighty warrior Blitzen as he takes on Central Scrutinizer in a High Elf versus Empire showdown. And boy, oh boy, is it an absolute scrap. These guys, very, very competitive players, both fantastic ladder players as well. I've seen them take quite a few scalps in the past. We're going to have to wait and see who can come out on top today. For the forces of Blitzen and the High Elves, we have Rangers tattled all the way along the front line. Boop, boop, boop. And Rangers pretty decent in this matchup. They should be able to carve their way through a decent amount of state troops, overwhelm halberdiers, spearmen, and swordsmen alike. Leading the battle line, we do have Aliphanar coming in just with Slippery, so no Moonbow today, but he is certainly the edgiest of the edgy elves, coming in with that nice long-range armor-piercing missile damage. We do have a major fire over on the far side of Fireball and Burning Head, two very solid spells. I'd argue the two best spells in that lore of magic, though there's quite a few good ones in there. Backed up in the secondary line, backing up the front line, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4 units of archers. Certainly got some really good range on these guys, and that enables them to go toe-to-toe up against Empire handgunners relatively effectively. We have 2 E-Claw bolt throwers, so a nice range contingent in the central pocket, and to help protect this all, we have Dragon Princes plenty. We actually have 3 Dragon Princes, one of which is the Regiment of Renown Fireborn in the center, with their flaming lancers look even more badass than the basic unit, which is certainly a challenge to look more cool than Dragon Princes, but the red color scheme and the fiery lances really does tickle a little duck bone inside my body. It looks incredibly badass indeed. For the forces, though, up against them is going to be the Empire, and they're trying to outtrade the Elves at their own game. Countering Aliphanar, we have a Huntsman General. He is very cheap. He is currently hidden as well, coming in basically completely bare, no items, no abilities, nothing of the sort, but he shall be leading the front line. He's going to be backed up by a load of spearmen as well as swordsmen dotted all the way through in a nice defensive position, and the builds are relatively similar. In the central pocket we have a load of archers, but this time it is the Huntsmen, so these guys of course do have the ability to be hidden as well as that anti-large, and there's quite a few of them in the center here. We actually have 5 units of the Huntsmen outnumbering the Elvish archers. We even have the silver bullets on the left hand side as well, looking to support the Huntsmen General where possible. Much like the Dragon Princes, we have Empire Knights, and they are in the back. Now, these guys are far less effective warriors than the Dragon Princes, but they do the job. They can pin the enemy in place and hopefully allow those Huntsmen to really bring the pain to the Elvish forces. We have a Hammer of the Witches in the back as well, a fantastic anti-large, very long-range artillery piece, and it's instantly starting to shoot at Aliphanar. So without further ado, let's get this battle underway. There's also a Grey Wizard I should probably mention with Enfeebling Foe and Pendulum. Now, Aliphanar's taking quite a bit of pounding here. He got knocked off his feet by the cannon, and now the Huntsman's getting in there and trying to give him a little bit of poke as well. But Aliphanar does a 360 no-scope, which clatters into the Huntsman General, doing some really nice damage, and Aliphanar, though, does eat yet another big old cannonball to the face. But hey, 2 can play at that game, and now the Bolt Thrower is launching shots back towards the Huntsman General, who gets knocked off. So a relatively even trade. Aliphanar has taken a bit more damage, but it has revealed the position of the Huntsman General, who gets absolutely sent flying by Aliphanar once again, who doesn't even need to look to shoot his opponent. He just does those 360 kind of montage videos in his spare time, so he absolutely 100% will be able to beat a Huntsman General in a long-range fight like this, and you can see the Huntsman General is really getting pounded down quite badly now. The Bolt Throwers are going to be moving up, trying to trade shots with probably the Hammer of Witches and looking to bring it down. The archers are unleashing salvo after salvo of shots into the Huntsman General, and we're getting a fireball, but it does look like the fireball instead is going to be aimed at the artillery piece. Not a bad idea whatsoever. It is going to glide menacingly through the air, and kaboom! Not quite. It hits some of the crewmen, but doesn't actually take down any of the artillery pieces. Luckily for the Elves, though, they did bring double the amount of artillery today, and they should be able to overwhelm the Hammer Witches in no time. Huntsman General's taking quite a lot of damage, and it looks like the Huntsmen are now going up against the Elvish archers, but look at the range on the archers. Beautiful play by Blitzen. He's moving his front line in way ahead of his archer line. Way, way, way ahead, knowing he's protected by the Dragon Princes in the back, and this way he can shoot the enemy Huntsmen, and they can't shoot him. Empire Knights go for a rather heroic charge straight down the middle. Lances lowered, trampling over Elves and trying to drive through the main battle line, and it looks like that's working relatively well. The Empire managed to crack this front line of Elvish forces, but there's Dragon Princes moving in to ensnare the Empire Knights, and a lovely Burning Head is actually going to catch both the units there, Swordsmen and Empire Knights, and might even catch a 3rd unit here of the Spearmen. What a cast, doing some really nice damage across the board, but it looks like it is actually going to miss this 3rd unit for the most part. In the distance, we can see Dragon Princes clipped by an enfeebling foe, surrounded by Spearmen and Empire Knights alike. They certainly are going to want to retreat, and they do just that, trying to pull back out of harm's way. Empire Knights are really trying to run over this archer line where possible, but the Firebomb are always on hand to try to counterpunch the enemy cavalry, and Dragon Princes are dueling Empire Knights rather effectively down here on the flanks. The men, the poor little manlins, simply don't have the martial prowess of such elite warriors, but they do have the numbers with Spearmen coming up to support. Maybe the Empire Knights can indeed hold on. Rangers are trying to push through onto the Huntsmen, but for the most part, they're kind of getting slaughtered in their droves. We do have the major fire moving up, going right into the danger zone in the middle of the battlefield, popping yet another fireball, trying to finish off the last cannon for the Hammer of Witches, and this time it does connect and takes down the artillery piece, giving the Elvish forces the kind of advantage in range at the moment. Dragon Princes are stopping at some of the Empire Knights in the back, but Spearmen are starting to drive forward towards this bow line, which has been well protected so far by Blitzen, and he's fallen back with even more Dragon Princes, and the Fireborn looking to protect his range assets if it is at all possible. Rangers have been stumped, coming up against Swordsmen, allowing the Huntsmen to retreat and rain in a load of shots, but yet another beautiful burning head. We've seen so many today going down the line on the silver bullets, probably going to be enough to break them there, and they do start fleeing for their lives. In fact, they shatter, falling back away from the vengeance of the Elvish folk. Huntsmen are getting ramrodded in the back now as the Fireborn and Dragon Princes starting to circumvent these Spearmen and other state troops. You see this unit of Huntsmen nearly gone, and the second one starting to be compromised. Things are looking pretty good for the Elves so far. However, some Empire Knights returning from a let's say a tactical retreat are now going to be coming back to try to jump the archers, and there's not that much left to protect this Elvish back line. Eagle bolt throwers are running out of artillery pieces to actually shoot. This unit still has some, and the archers are launching shot after shot into the Empire Knights, doing a lovely bit of crossfire trying to protect their archer brothers, but there's more spearmen moving in on both flanks, which is certainly very scary. Alefanor is doing absolutely fine. He took a lot of damage initially in the early stages of the battlefield, but he has relatively okay HP at the moment. Huntsmen are just pouring on the shots now, and though the Fireborn and Dragon Princes punched through the Empire formation, started running over their Knights and Huntsmen, they're also getting whittled down quite badly, but another burning head, well placed once more, is going to go through the Huntsman, doing some decent damage. However, that mage has to be careful. She is a large target on her horse, so the Huntsman will do that lovely bit of bonus damage against her. In the back lines, it looks like the Fireborn are barely clinging on to life. The other Dragon Princes are starting to run, and this might mean a bit of a rally for the Empire forces. If they can grab back these Huntsmen and continue to get them shooting, the Fireborn will indeed go down, and it looks like that's actually happening a little bit sooner than I intended to think, as the Empire are starting to break, but the Fireborn, they're really suffering right now. Down to just 14 models, a lovely bit of crossfire. Both players doing kind of very similar tactics and very similar builds. It's been a close scrap for sure, and it does look like Spearmen are starting to shut down some of the archers in the back line, which is really good news for the Empire, and maybe a comeback is on the card. Yet another fireball going to go down range, this time aiming at the Grey Wizard, who's trying to juke left and right, but so does the fireball. It tracks, hits the horse right up the rump, and that's going to leave a little bit of burn as it does flee for its life. It looks like the Huntsman General did go down. Alefanor was constantly on his case, so I didn't think there was too much chance for him to survive. Luckily, there are some Rangers coming back. They're very beat up though, and it looks like the Spearmen may be able to drag them down. The Archer's going to kite for as long as physically possible though, to try to get one or two more volleys off to bring to the enemy, because every volley certainly does count now. A couple of units of Archers are doing some lovely crossfire once again, aiming at the Spearmen. In the back, we can see Eagle Bolt Thrower crew is maybe just trying to leg it out of here. They seem like they just don't want to get killed, which is, you know, a decent idea. They have a relatively okay balance of power to them due to the fact they have a load of their ammunition left. Archers in the back do get swarmed and dragged down by the man-tide of Spearfolk. Alefanor going to continue to yeet towards the middle of the battlefield, getting really low on ammunition, just one volley left. What does he use it on? That is going to be the big question. Archers will be getting finished off here, and the Hammer of Witches crew might want to even chase them and just force them back where possible, because hey, you might not be the best fighters in the world, but as long as the archers are running for their life, they're not going to be shooting. Although it looks like the Empire Knights might be coming in for one last thunderous charge. There's not that many of them left. Can the archers loose one last volley? No, they can't, and the Empire Knights will be clattering into them, blood and guts flinging in all directions. And all of a sudden, it's the High Elves on the back foot. We do have 7 of the Fireborn returning, and the Spearmen are looking a little beleaguered. If the archers can focus fire them down whilst they're on the approach, there's a good chance that the High Elf bow line here can indeed hold. Now, the Eagle Bolt Thrower is unleashing some really nice spread shots onto the Huntsman. Looks like they're suffering quite badly. Those spearmen are in a nice formation. Maybe we'll get one last fireball or something from the major fire down the ranks. Could do some decent damage. Looks like the archers will be falling back, retreating behind the heroic Eagle Claw bolt thrower crew, who will put their bodies on the line to pin these spearmen in place to save the lives of these precious archers, who need to start running a little bit more or turn into engage. They can't just stand here and allow the Eagle Claw bolt thrower crew's sacrifice to go in vain, and the spearmen are going to start pushing through that crew as much as possible. But the archers are starting to reform their lines once more, and the Huntsmen are so weak. The fact that their Lord's gone is a massive boon to the High Elf forces, that the Empire Lord's gone, because their leadership simply isn't holding at the moment. But a beautifully well-placed pendulum comes in by Central Scrutinizer, getting rid of that unit of archers, and they are fleeing for their life. The bolt thrower still has decent ammunition, 6 volleys left, and it is just Kobeing shot after shot into the Huntsmen, and 2 of the units have indeed shattered. We do have some archers rallying in the back, and it looks like the Fireborn have indeed returned back to the battlefield. The Grey Wizard is crying. He is screaming every single slur in the name of Sigma to hold the line in the name of the Empire and push this Elvish filth out of their lands. But is it going to be enough? I'm not so sure. Alephanar's still fighting, and though he is a ranged kind of skirmish hybrid lord, he's got decent melee stats, and he is managing to beat back a couple units of spearmen on the periphery of the battlefield. If we have one last fireball left, dropping on the Grey Wizard would be a rather nice play, and it looks like that's just what's going to happen, actually. It's curving just like the film wanted, and it catches the Grey Wizard, doing some really nice damage. Bolt thrower crew is now getting harassed, however, by the swordsman, and will most likely get shut down, but in comes the Mage of Fire, bringing the fire and the fury to the battlefield. We still have a decent number of spearmen. 2 units here. It does look like the Hammer of Witches crew is actually getting in down and dirty, gritting their teeth and trying to fight the archers. You know it's been an epic game when both forces have been forced to use their artillery crews in combat to pin the enemy in place. Archers are starting to run out of ammunition. Balance power is very even, though slightly in favor of the High Elves at the moment. Mage is just about clinging on to life, as we have 5 Fireborn left, and their charge will be enough to break this unit of swordsmen, I think. Maybe not. In the name of Sigma, they are holding. They're getting back up, and it looks like they're actually dragging down a decent portion of the remaining Firebomb there. Alephanar is going to be moving back, and it looks like we have a Fireball. This is a disaster. I burn and headstone off Fireball. This is an absolute disaster for the Empire, though. Both the Spearmen start to waver. Hammer of Witches as well, and with that, army losses is going to kick in, and it shall be a very Pyrrhic victory for the forces of the High Elves. Well played to these 2 champs, Mr. Blitzen of Clan BBB and the Central Scrutinizer. Always great to have them both on the channel. They always put on a fantastic show, and you can't get much closer than that. Bolt thrower crewmen having to lay down their weapons and charge, putting their bodies on the line so their archers could escape, and likewise the Hammer of Witches crew pumping those human legs, trying to force their way across the battlefield to get to grips with their foe and drag them down with their bare hands. Well played to both these guys again. It was a super awesome game with some massive damage done across the board on both sides. Very impressive Alephanar keeping himself alive after some early damage and paying back that pain in double to the Empire forces, getting some rather juicy damage value. But we'll hop into the damage dealt, damage value and kills of all of these units in just a second. But if you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to leave a big fat juicy thumbs up, subscribe to the channel as well for more Total War Warhammer content, and comment down below what you thought of the battle. All those things really help push the channel more and more, so I super appreciate it. There's links down below as well in the description to my Twitch channel, where you can support me over there. I do extra streams once or twice a week. There's also a load of links down below to Discords, where you can submit replays just like Blitzen did today, and yeah, just a load of good stuff, so feel free to go check it out if you're interested in that kind of thing. So let's look at the damage dealt and damage value on these units. Alephanar, 74 kills, certainly not bad. 1,132 damage value, really bringing the pain to the enemy, but was slightly outclassed, I would argue, by the Firecaster. 1,952 damage value. Beautiful work. Over 13k damage dealt and 118 kills. Those burning heads were very well placed. But likewise, the fireballs were used quite well to assassinate characters, as well as helping take down the Hammer of Witches, because that did kind of cause quite a lot of threats to those Dragon Princes. But with both the bolt throwers plus the fireball, they were able to kind of take away that advantage that the Empire had in the early stages of the battle. Rangers did okay, nothing too crazy. I mean, this unit literally got 0 damage delta, 0 damage value, so didn't have a good time. Elsewhere, 577 damage value was the highlight, so they did their job. They got in there, they got some okay kills, 31, 66, 18, and a mighty 0, so he's cleared out some chaff and tried to buy as much time as possible for the archers and the dragon princes to really reign supreme, and the archers did a fantastic job. 460, 670, 785, and 592 damage value. That added range they have over on the Huntsmen is so nice, simply due to the fact they can engage the enemy when the enemy cannot engage with them. Dragon Princes did a decent job, 700 value, 600 value, and then 1,485 on the Fireborn, almost used as really expensive Empire Knights, just trying to pin the enemy in place to buy more time for the archers. Of course, Regiment Renowned with the anti-large, performing far better than the other two. 133 kills, not a bad day's work whatsoever. For the equal bolt throws, one of them got shut down relatively early on. The Hammer of Witches is certainly a cruel mistress and can do some pretty bad damage. So this poor Eagle Bolt Throw did get shut down very quickly, but the other one got 820 damage value, 79 kills, and was relatively crucial in the later stages of the game with that spread shot to break the morale of the already wavering Empire army. The Huntsman General only got 277 damage value. Don't play with fire is probably my advice to the General here. You'll know a decent hunter, but Alifnar, he's kind of the kingpin of this type of gameplay, so he did get shut down relatively early on, but despite that, Central Scrutinizer made this incredibly close. 748 damage value on the Grey Wizard. Looks like the Spearman did, okay across the board. In fact, some of them really well. 787 damage value, being a real standout for them with that 50 kills as well. Swordsman did okay, 400 damage value, 143. They were born to die and they fulfilled their duty. The Huntsman, 650 damage value, 460, 640, 380, and 1,434 damage value. The fact they come in with Stalk, the fact they come with the anti-large really does mean they're some of the best and most good utility archers in the entire game. They helped drag down the Dragon Princes in that mid-stage of the battle, where Blitzen got really aggressive, trying to drive at the heart of the Empire forces. Silver Bullet, only 549 damage value, but hey, they kind of got jumped by a burning head. It happens to us all. Empire Knights, 500 value, 399, 396, and 440. Really isn't that bad when you consider they were going up against Dragon Princes, so they were really the true heroes of the Empire, charging against a foe they knew they could not beat, but as long as it bought time for their Huntsmen, they knew they had a chance. They did manage to kill all the Dragon Princes, but it was a little bit too little, too late. Hammer Witches got 932 damage value. 30 not too shabby whatsoever, considering there was double the amount of artillery on the opposition side, plus Aliphanar, plus fireballs. It still got some work done before it went down. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.